we have more interestingly juicy details regarding the Lauri Markkanen saga, and it's looking bleak for him to get traded. As my personal predictions were, it didn't seem very likely after a certain point that Lauri Markkanen's trade was ever going to be an imminent thing. Now, we were told it was like a 10% chance that it does happen, but nevertheless, it was one of those situations where you needed a deal that was going to basically make Danny Ainge, Justin Zanuck, and that front office feel like they would be silly not to trade Lauri Markkanen for what they were going to receive. From the Warriors, they were the team that was front and center. However, things didn't end up going the way that the front office would have loved for them to, because the Utah Jazz were unable to convince the Warriors to add Brandon Podziemski into the trade deal along with a significant amount of draft capital to trade for Lauri Markkanen, which understandably so, because Podziemski, in the eyes of the front office for the Warriors, has very high upside to the point where they believe that he is a future all-star caliber player. So it makes sense why they wouldn't want to trade him, especially with Curry getting up there in age. You want to go ahead and get him up to speed, get him in the system so that you can rely on him going forward. It effectively means that the doors are closing on the possibility of a trade because nobody else has been very big on it since this period of time has kept rolling around. Toni Jones of The Athletic and ESPN 700 had a very interesting thought to say. It reads, Lauri has really taken to Utah. His family has taken to Utah. Obviously, the Jazz can trade him between now and August 6th, and Lauri knows that, but Lauri has forged a really close relationship with Will Hardy, and Will has really found a way to unlock his career. And Lauri recognizes that and appreciates that and wants to be part of the rebuild. The important implication is that Will Hardy is welcoming Lauri Markkanen back next season with all open arms. And let's not forget that Lauri Markkanen was not the player that he is today or the player that he was last season without Will Hardy. Because in his days with the Chicago Bulls and even with the Cleveland Cavaliers, he was never given the green light and put in position to succeed as much as he was in the system that Hardy decided to run. He went from averaging about 15.5 points all the way up to giving you over 20 on a consistent basis, to the point where if he scored in the teens, we considered it to be a bad night shooting for him. His efficiency was so incredible that he only ended up dipping underneath 40% at the very tail end of the season, and for the majority of the year was regarded as the one or possibly the second best shooting big in the league, depending on how you ranked Karl-Anthony Towns. Another important thing to take in and just keep in mind is the fact that he says the likely scenario is Lauri signs on August 7th. The Jazz prioritize the young guys during the season, the Cooper flag sweepstakes, effectively because this draft is so highly believed to be successful and have so many surefire picks, especially to fill out the top 5, that the Jazz effectively really need that. Jones believes that they're going to not only just emphasize the young players during the season, but really go after the young players, which could be very interesting depending on how you look at it and depending on how well they take to the system that Will Hardy runs. If they take really well, then during the year that they are going to be bad and are expected to be bad and need to be bad, they will be bad. But they will be making steady progress to go ahead and climb that stock ladder, which will be very important because the sooner they can get up to speed, the more competitive this team can be as a whole and the more successful as a result everybody will be. And it will also prevent us from wasting too many more of Lauri's elite years, to be quite honest, because yes, he is 27 and this upcoming season he will end up eventually turning 28 at the butt end of it. He is entering his prime. He's reaching the peak of his powers. I would like for him to gain a little bit more of self-creation of offense. But aside from that, this is who Lauri Markkanen is at his peak, at the very least in this system. So as a result, it only makes sense that you use it for all it's worth while you got it. And I believe that if Lauri Markkanen is as fond of Utah as I believe he is, then we have no reason to be concerned about his devotion towards winning in the city. Jones also had this to say. The thing that people are not understanding is that the Jazz are going to really prioritize the young guys from day one. And if they had their druthers, they would have traded Jordan Clarkson and they would have traded John Collins. Even with that, I still think the Jazz are going to de-emphasize the veterans and are going to prioritize the young guys. That further just tunnels down what I just previously said, which is they just need the young guys to really get up to speed and really work their tails off. This is going to be a rough season. There's going to be a lot of welcome to the league moments for a lot of those guys. A lot of them are going to be outright horrendous during certain stretches of the season, but they will learn, they will grow, and with proper veteran leadership and properly being assisted and held up by their family in the Utah Jazz community, I believe that ultimately it will be a very successful endeavor to undergo. Again, I do think to a certain extent it is unfortunate that Lauri had to experience this, but I do enjoy the fact that we now have even further clarification as to the likelihood, number one, of him re-signing with the team, because I personally believe that he was going to re-sign, and not only re-sign, but re-sign a little bit later, i.e. August 7th, so that he can still get his max contract, but he won't have to worry about hearing the trade rumors in his ear all season. Those can come back next offseason. And honestly, I don't think that they will, because if the Jazz end up having the offseason that they would like to, and they do nab, say it isn't even Cooper Flag, say they just nab one of the other picks, maybe even third overall, that's going to be very, very, very good. And let's not forget that they also have a total of 3 current first round picks this upcoming year. I believe that that's going to be very big for them, because if they want to trade up, it's going to cost them a lot. But if they have multiple picks in that same year, they can really finagle stuff and get something really shaking. And I believe that ultimately, even if they don't nab Cooper Flag, there's going to be plenty of other players, particularly from a wing depth standpoint, that can really fill that role and create a more ideal rotation and create that second/third star that is necessary to allow the Utah Jazz to genuinely be a perennial playoff team and also be a perennial contender. But you guys let me know what you think in the comments below. As always, I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say. How do you feel about the news? Do you just feel like this is something you already knew? I know I talk about this enough, kind of beating the dead horse, and my personal stance has been from the beginning that Lauri should end up re-signing and staying out of the trade rumors. I don't see a world where that doesn't really happen, and I think that Danny Ainge is going to be true to his word and allow him to do that, especially considering the fact that not too many star players want to be in Utah, not too many star players come to Utah and enjoy it and just sing the praises. Now, it could just be a media trick. It should just be what his team told him to say. But I'm inclined to believe Lauri Markkanen at his word, because I haven't seen him lie in an interview yet. But with that being said, go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe, turn on post notifications, become a member, and drop a donation to help support the channel. Without any further ado, good morning, good evening, and good night, no matter where you're on the globe watching. Thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.